Okay guys, we got a 2005 Dodge here, 1500. We're going to be doing a transmission filter change on it. It has a Hemi in it. We went with the TF98 because we had to. This does not go with that. And then I got the ATF Plus 4. Why? Because it is a Dodge. So this filter kit's going to have your gasket in it, the filter, and another filter. There's going to be two filters in this pan. If you haven't done these before, I'll show you how to do them. Let's get up underneath there. We're going to need a 5/16 socket. You can use air to pull these pan bolts off, but don't use air to put it on. Otherwise, you're going to be using gasket maker, just like they did with RTV to put this pan on. You should never have to put RTV on a transmission pan gasket. I'll show you a couple key things that we're going to do as far as the cleaning process and what I call pinging the pan if you haven't seen any of my videos. And this way it seals it and we're not going to have to use RTV. So let's get underneath there and get those bolts out. Okay, here's our pan. We're going to be pulling these 15 bolts out here. They're all 5/16 or an 8mm. Again, here is the RTV that we won't be using to seal this pan. There's a leak here too, I notice, on this transmission line right here. Those have O-rings in them. I'll show you how to take those apart. I'll make another video. If you need that link, click on my name underneath this video for all my how-to videos, and I'll make one real quick of that too. That's not a hard repair at all. So we'll get that to stop leaking for him as well while we're under here. So let me go ahead and pull these bolts right now. I got this extra large drip pan here, thanks to a brother-in-law. And we'll let that drip down inside and pull it off. Now I'm going to pull off just one side, the back side here. The front, I'll leave a couple bolts on, let it sag down so it can drain out as much as it can inside the pan, so that then I'll push it back up, remove those bolts, so that when I lower it, it's not as heavy. I think you understand that. If it had a drain bolt inside of it, it'd be much easier, but these Dodges didn't have them. So let's get the bolts off. Pulling these back bolts here, I'm underneath the engine side and I'm looking at the rear end. I pulled off these back ones. Now I'll take turns pulling one, and I'll let that fall down and drip into my pan. And that way I'm not making this huge mess. I think you get it. Front, except one on the back, the 3 across the front, and one on the back. It's barely dripping out. That's because of the RTV that's on there. So now if you can see this bolt, it's loose. I've only got it down about halfway. That's what I'm going to do to the rest of them. So in hopes that it kind of drops down and that side tilts a little bit in order to get it out a little bit faster so I don't have to sit here and wait on it. If I drop these bolts now, it's going to be sloshing back and forth. You get it. There we go. Now she's kind of running pretty good in there. So we'll just go ahead and let that run for a little bit. A bunch just came out. I wasn't able to grab the camera in time, but anyway, she's just about there. At this point now, I can hold this up, take the rest of the bolts out, and allow this to come down with one hand with no worry about it going everywhere. Once again, I think you get it. So lowered it right back down, she came down. Now here's the one filter here that I talked about, and here's the other. This is going to take a T25. This one is just going to unscrew. And so the T25 bolt is right there. I believe that's the only one that holds it. There could be one up underneath. I'll check and see, but I believe that's it. And look at this right here. See that? That's RTV. That's what was around the pan right there. See that? This is huge. This is a no-no. And this is why I don't like using it. I mean, there's two reasons. One, so it don't leak, but the biggest reason is there's probably some of this in the valve body. Look at that nut right there. See it on there? If it's on that nut, you can bet it's in the valve body. It's probably part of the reason why this is having a little bit of a shifting issue and we're having to do this. So let's get this cleaned up. Okay, I pulled the T25 out there. Now, this here is going to have a seal on it. It should pop out of there. Make sure that the seal is on there. See that? It is not on there. That means it's down inside. And we got to get it out of there. So it's going to be up inside that hole right there. It gets left in there sometimes. Make sure you get that out so you're not double stacking the new filter. So let me grab a picky tool. Should be able to just go right up in there and just pull it right out. Be careful not to scratch the side walls of the hole itself, but you'll be all right. Just get up in there with a little picky tool and pull it down, or pry it, get a little screwdriver and pry away, push the ring towards the middle, and then you can grab it with needle nose or whatever and pull it out, but they normally come out pretty easily. Okay, I got a picky tool here, but I'm looking at the lip and I'm just going to use a small flathead screwdriver here. I'm going to get right up underneath the side right there and just give her a twist. See that? That's it. That's how they come out. So your new one will be on the new filter, but make sure you change it. And so now for this filter, If you don't have a filter wrench or something, these are not put on very tight. I just use a rag. Just give it a quick twist there, and then she'll loosen right up. Make sure you don't get the rag around the valve body. You don't need lint up in there. So let's move that pan over just a hair. And we'll take that off. Lots of threads on these. You got a little Allen screw on the inside that holds that threaded bolt, and they're very long threaded, elongated right there. So all right, we'll pull that out. Now we're going to clean around this real good, get all that old RTV off. We're going to clean up the pan real good, and then let me show you that pinging process. So we got all the edges here cleaned up really good all the way around. It's going to keep dripping a little bit here, so now we can go ahead and throw the filters on. Okay, so the seal right here, let me show you this real quick before I throw it on. I'm going to get a little dab of tranny fluid and rub it around that seal just as if it was an oil filter, and that way it helps seal it up a little bit. I think you understand that. So we're just going to wipe it around. There we go. Now we'll throw it up inside there. Once again, lots of threads here. And then snug it up as tight as you can by hand, both your hands. If you're not really strong in the wrist, then maybe grab an oil filter wrench. But if you can get a hold of it with both hands, I'll get as snug as I can here with one, and then get a hold of it with both and just give it another quarter turn. That's all you need on that. Then we're going to shove this on. Make sure that that seal, that metal seal right there, gets pushed all the way up in there. Make sure it's seated all the way down before you put the bolt in. That's going to take two hands, so let me get that up in there. Okay, all I did was run the bolt up just a couple of threads, and then I seated this side. I've seen a lot of people bang on these filters. Don't do that. You need all that room you can get in there. So if you have to, worst case, you can take a screwdriver and just lay it right up against the edge of that seat, and then tap the bottom of the screwdriver with your hand to get it to seat. Make sure that it's seated, but don't beat on the filter. You just bought it, right? So, all right, let's tighten that up, then let's get out there and get that pan cleaned up. Now that I inspect this a little bit better, there is no pan gasket on it. It's all RTV. So maybe they didn't have access to a pan gasket. I know some people get tired of fighting with them and they throw them away, and they don't use them. But the newer gaskets are made with smaller holes than these holes, and I'll show you, to hold the bolt in place, which holds the gasket in place. And a lot of times guys they hate fighting with it, so they end up throwing it away and using RTV. If this is an oil pan for the engine oil, I get that, but a transmission pan, so delicate not to get this stuff into the valve body. Don't do this. Get yourself an actual gasket and put it on correctly. Okay, got that pan all cleaned up. Now what we're going to do before we install it and wipe it down is we're going to do what I call pinging it. I don't know where that term came from. I just heard it since a buddy of mine, Antonio Budafuco, showed me how to do it. So what I do is on every hole, these holes get squeezed down as they get over tightened, so it pushes a little bubble on the back side of it. So what you want to do is just hold a socket that's bigger than the hole that will fit between here, and just give it one smack until it sits completely flat. Now I'm surprised this one actually sits flat. Normally you can push on a corner and they'll rock a little bit, but this one sits extremely flat. So all we're going to do is just make sure that the edge here is not raised just a hair from over tightening. And the way we're going to do that is just give it a little ping, every single one, just like one tap on each one, and that's all it takes. And then we'll get the gasket on. Okay, so we got that painted, we're ready for the gasket now. Now you see how it lifts up on one side, down on the other? This is why people use RTV in the first place. Or they end up using it and it still makes a mess. They stick it up there, they can't get it to work, it won't stay on. They don't understand it, they rip it off, and then they put RTV on the pan only like we seen on this pan. Different things, they're very difficult to work with. However, the manufacturer has done us this huge favor when it comes to these transmission pans. And let me show you. There you go. Silly manufacturers finally did something right. So they literally just thread right in because the hole's so small. So you can just thread them all straight up there just like that. And now we can go put them in. Now when we put it on, we're not going to tighten them up, right? Because the others are going to be pinched. We're just going to go 2 or 3 threads all the way around till we know they're all started. Then we'll snug them up. Do not use the air here to tighten these up. They do not need to be that tight. I'll show you how tight I get them, and you're going to be surprised because it's not very tight. See how loose those are? They're only up about two turns, maybe 3. And I'll do that all the way around and make sure all of them have started first. Now, once we know they've all started, we can go on one side, snug up one with our hand, go on the other side, snug up another one with our hand, and now we know all of them are lined up and ready to go. Run them all down till they're snug. So at this point, they have just been tightened by hand and snugged up by hand. Now I'm going to hold my ratchet just like this. I'm not holding the handle way down here. I'm going to hold it like this because I don't want to go any tighter than that. Now look real closely right in between the bolt here and the pan and the tranny. Can you see the thin layer of gasket right there? Let me try to get it tight or snug close up. Watch the gasket as it squeezes. This is really loose still. Watch as it squeezes. There, see it push out? Stop right there. That's as far as you tighten that. Now I can crank on this thing pretty easily. All I did was snug it. Let me show you how much, maybe a little further away with this hand. Right there. I stopped right there. This is actually loose. See the bolts loose? Let me spin it one more time there. There. Now watch the gasket. That's it right there. Stop. It's like 7 or 8 pounds. It's not that much. They will not jimmy loose. The tension of the gasket itself will keep the bolt pushed out kind of like a lock washer does. They snug up just fine. If you see that gasket move, stop. That's as tight as you want it. And the vibration, they'll tighten. They won't loosen. So don't over tighten this pan. If you over tighten it, that's why they leak. They never leak because they're loose. They leak because they're over tightened. So let me go around and snug the rest of those up. Oh, so holding this just like this, right? Even if I wanted to, I couldn't tighten it anymore. But if I grab it right here, I can crank that thing tight. So that's how many pounds you want approximately. And again, if you see that gasket come out like that, stop. You don't want it too far. You may even have it a little bit far there, but you get the idea. So at this point now, we can fill it up with transmission fluid and we are good to go. This is going to call for, I'm going to lie to you, I think it was 6 quarts. Let me look. It was 4.7 quarts. So 4.7 quarts, you want 5 quarts of transmission fluid at this point. So, and then of course, run your vehicle, put it in reverse, put it in drive, put it back in park, then check it again and make sure that you're at the proper level. If not, add a little bit. But I think 4.7 is where you want to be. So don't throw all of the 5th one in there until you've actually ran it a little bit, started it up for 5 minutes, shift those gears, put it back in park and check it again. And that's it. So if you need that line, again, click on my name underneath this video and you can get that, how to fix that O-ring in that line. Other than that, you're good to go here. So I'm sorry this was long, but I wanted to be thorough with you, and I thank you guys a bunch. Please click like, please click subscribe, click on my name underneath this video for all my other how-to videos, and as always, guys, enjoy.